Hello, avid readers, book nerds, and casual observers. Welcome to the Read Along, brought to you by the Lit Roundtable. I'm Anna.
And I'm Joseph, and today we are talking about Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. All right, everyone, welcome to the Hall of Smoke finale.
We're in the last part.
The last part. So if you haven't finished the book, stop it. Just stop and go finish the book.
Yeah.
And then come back and listen to our riveting commentary and discussion.
And if you haven't even started the book, what are you doing here? Go back and read the book.
Yeah. That'd be kind of silly.
Unless you're our mom.
Yeah. Or if you just want a general recommendation, in which case, yeah, you should read it. Now go do it. And then come back.
Yes.
Anyway. So, yeah, the finale. We finished the book. We finished it. So, I just think if there isn't already an Estavius fan club, I think that there should be.
Oh, I'm in it. Hardcore.
Wow. What a cool little reveal we got there.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like we got, even though we kind of did, get a Deus Ex Machina. It doesn't feel like we did because he was technically there the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not his fault that Lathian and his cohort were too self-absorbed to notice him finishing the ritual in the lake at night.
Yes, which is just fantastic.
That is hilarious. Yeah, loved that. Loved that for him.
What did you think of, so after Quintus takes Hessa's Angie fire, she ends up in the Hall of the Gods again, or the High Halls again, I should say. But none of the rest of the gods that are there seem to be able to see her, but Estavius does.
Yeah, I think she was kind of, in my mind, she was like hiding. In my head, it's kind of like Edoras, and there's like those big pillars on the side. And
yeah, that's kind of what I was picturing.
She's like hiding behind the pillars, but if someone walks in from the front, they can see someone hiding behind a pillar, even though if you're like in the center, you can't see them. That's kind of how it was in my head.
Okay.
So like he could see her when he walked in, just like behind a pillar drinking mead, like a little gremlin, just like slurping away while while the gods are having important discussions.
Okay. I guess that
drinking
makes sense.
away her sorrow. But we didn't see Ing in the high halls. I thought that we were going to get some kind of weird confrontation in there, but nope, didn't happen.
No. And poor Gad is like just trying to, he's putting everything he's got into trying to save his people.
He's trying real hard.
Yeah. He's real beat up.
I picture him as Beorn, like the actor that played Beorn in the Hobbit movies. That's how I picture him.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So it was quite the climactic end. We got another showdown with, well, first of all, it was like the battle lines were drawn with all of the Lathian cohort with the new gods that were standing up to him. That was really cool. I'm glad that, well, let me organize my thoughts a little more. Estavius is a god, and that was neat.
Yeah, he's
it starts with the name.
he's
the god of
Aliestros?
Aliestros?
Yes. Which Hessa starts to connect the dots when he shows up in the high halls. But she doesn't like fully connect the dots until he shows up as a god in front of everybody. And I shouldn't say god, because he's one of the Miri, I think. He's like those guys.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
But he, if you recall, like back at the beginning of this book, when the ARPA soldiers show up in that cave with Hessa and Nissian and his mom, and the wind showed up, and we were like, there was something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there was more going on than we thought.
It wasn't just the storm lady.
No.
It was your boy Estavius.
Yes.
And he's one of the Miri, and he has an Animorphs moment where he like turns into his cool version of himself.
Yeah.
And Hessa's like, whoa. Super cool moment. That was awesome. And Ing did show up to join into the fray.
Oh my
like
gosh.
with the good guys at the end, with Winter himself.
Yes.
Ogum's dad.
That was cool.
Which, that was an awkward conversation. Like, trying to get your baby daddy to roll up and like help you defeat the evil ancient gods.
And your son.
Yeah. And your evil son who's like killing people.
Yeah.
Impregnating random women.
Oh my gosh. I was super glad that Hessa got to destroy Quentis. Because, okay, here's the deal. I know that she ultimately made the choice to get rid of her Angie fire. Like, that was a very cathartic thing for her to make that choice. And to just be herself and her own person. That was good. But, like, what Quentis had done to her, like, trying to do that before they got to the lake, and his actions were super awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
this time it was consensual. The first time it was a little like kind of Ruthie-esque.
Yeah.
And, not cool. I'm glad that she got to be the one to take out Quentis, and it was very satisfying. Like he didn't see it coming. Hairpin to the throat. Donezo.
And he was dead so fast.
Yeah.
Which the hairpin, I don't think we mentioned in the last section that Olmascat had actually held on to the hairpin from her that Eater had given her and had returned it to her. And that was a very sweet moment that he had held on to that. And turns out super important because she really needed that. That was like one of her only weapons for these last few sections.
That and a knife.
Yes.
She managed, now she's got even cooler weapons because of the grudge match of the century, which is a former priest or priest fighting against her former deity.
Yeah.
Whoa. Well, first there was the rematch of Ogum versus Ing. And Ing finally put the nail in his coffin because apparently the water in the lake is even enough. Like she drowned him in the water and he was donezo. So
yeah, he had done some pretty significant damage to Hessa before that.
Oh yeah, that made my shoulder hurt reading about it.
Yeah, yeah. So
nasty.
And Hessa was like
spear.
Relieved that Aang wasn't like turning on her immediately, but then as soon as Ogam was gone, she was like, "No, girl, we gotta hash out our business right here and now."
What a cold line. It was like, this is what becomes of traitors. And I was like, oh no. I thought that you guys were going to have like a heart-to-heart moment. Like, oh yeah, I was wrong what I did to the Ingi people. And like, I know you don't have my fire anymore, but like, I thought they were going to have a moment of like, Ing not being a total self-centered, like, awful person.
Yeah. But, no, she, there was no like, sorry for abusing you and your people for centuries. Yeah, it was pretty ruthless.
So then they get to fight, and Ingi scream, which all other Ingi screams are modeled after, didn't kill Hessa, and she was able to resist it, and I was like, man, if this ever gets made into a movie or a show or something, that would be an awesome moment.
Well, and her fires, or not her fire, Hessa's magic now is like I was picturing like kind of golden Spider-Man, but maybe like a little more finesse.
Yeah, like ribbons of golden
Mm-hmm.
honey like power just kind of erupting out and
Yeah.
messing with people. Because she kind of like, when she withstands the scream, and it was kind of funny how uh, it was described how like everyone else, when they hear this happening, just kind of like turns and watches. Like everybody is super invested in what
Mm-hmm.
happens with this
Well,
former
yeah.
Ingy with Ing. And yeah, it was a really cool moment. Tessa got to kind of tie her down and then deal the blow
Mm-hmm.
that ended it for Ing. Um, and now she has Ing's axes, I believe. I think
Mm-hmm.
she has those at the end of the book too. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yes. The other big confrontation was between Nisian and Telios,
Hmm.
which we should maybe explain.
We got to hear more about the tea with
Mm-hmm.
uh, the tea with Telios. Um, so like him and Nisian had a thing.
Yeah.
Like there was a weird. It's hard for me to not think about ARPA as like the Roman Empire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like, I feel like I've read somewhere that was kind of a thing in a mentorship relationship where there would be occasionally some kind of like sexual things happening between like
Mm-hmm.
a mentor figure and their like apprentice figure. And Nisian did say that he was willing to do whatever. He thought that he loved him. He was willing to lie with him. And I was like, oh, that I did not expect that to go that direction.
I didn't either. But it does explain like why he was so affected by Telios's presence, and that would have not been a relationship that was fraught with power dynamics that were unhealthy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so just more evidence of abuse between people of power and people they're supposed to be supporting
Mm-hmm.
and mentoring, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Super unhealthy and just really sad for Nisian.
Yeah, and I guess it's like heads up, tough word. It did like what you said. It makes sense. Thinking about his reactions to seeing him and talking about him,
Mm-hmm.
as far as like, I mean, the way he reacted to Telios and how cagey he was about it, and the way he acted when he first saw him, it did in my head make me think like rape victim,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't expect it to be like that, where um I mean, it's not consensual with like with the power dynamics. It's not, you can't have
It's
proper consent in that
right.
scenario.
It's
But it was
coercion
like,
at best.
yeah, it was coercion, but it was in a way, I less of a like forceful way and more of like a manipulative way.
Yes.
Um, so I just wasn't expecting it to be like that. And no, it was just really interesting how I wasn't expecting that type of trauma, but it
Mm-hmm.
made everything else make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like why he had such a visceral hatred and reaction to this man.
Mm-hmm.
And um, that made for another very satisfying villain death.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
got to take his head.
Yeah. There's something
So
satisfying about watching these victims get to demolish their abusers and
yeah,
leave it behind.
for sure.
Like there's no more shadow of them coming back. Telios is gone. Nisian is gone. Not Nisian, sorry. Ing is gone.
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have to worry about them ever again.
Yeah. And it was interesting the way they talked about when Teleos gets killed, which Estavius comes in to. This is before he turns into his like godlike form, but he comes in to help Nisian with the fight against Teleos, and so they got to kind of tag team it. But when Teleos gets killed, Nisian takes his head off. Then it's like, and they didn't even get a chance to think about what they had just done, and then it was battle time because it was kind of this weird lull where Hessa just killed Quintus, Nisian kills Teleus, and then all the ARPA soldiers come to bear down on them, and all the Algat prisoners, and it was just battle and chaos. Yeah. So
well, and there's this really cool moment where Estavius is calling upon the old gods and is telling Lathian that he needs to go back to sleep, and he like reveals himself. Like that was also very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just battle chaos ensues. But it all ends with a dog barking, and I was like, "Is Ao back? Ao is back," which is very exciting. And so is Olmascat and little baby Vistic. They're back, and they all have golden eyes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Olmascat had 2 golden eyes instead of 1. So that's interesting. And Tevinder comes in and basically all the gods that don't kneel in subservience get wrecked. They all get like disintegrated. Like
yeah, they're gone.
Yeah. So that was satisfying.
And the High Halls are returned to what their original intention was, which was a resting place for those who had passed, which is cool.
And now we've got Super Hessa, and they're in Eastmead, and they've got their own like new world order with this new following, trying to kind of re-educate everyone on what happened and who they were actually worshiping, and like, boy, that's gonna be a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of, I mean, tradition kind of just has a way of seeping into your bones. I mean, even in the fight at the end, not against Ing, but when, I forget exactly when it happens, Hessa starts quoting like this Ingi battle chant talking about Ing, like Ing the vengeful and the like the watchful and all this stuff, and she's like reciting this in her head, and it's like, yeah, it sounds really cool. You don't even worship her anymore, but like, yeah, it's a cool battle chant thing, and like I understand why you're saying it right now.
Yeah, I think that's also just almost muscle memory, right? Like this is who she was.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to say this is who she was made to be because I don't. But in a sense,
I feel like she was trying to embody.
You know, like she had been molded to be this person, but now she gets to take it and like claim it as her own, and that was cool because now she has her own power that's just her. It's not
that she claimed. Wasn't given. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the fight with Ogam before Aang shows up and Hessa's fighting Ogam, and he's like, "I'm the one who told you the secret, and now you're fighting against me." He's so mad. I'm like, dude, you have no room to be mad right now. You are such a player, and you got played. So, tough luck, my dude.
Yeah.
But. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very satisfying ending. I was very happy with it.
Yeah.
It was an appropriate amount of falling action too. Tied a bow on everything, but I like how. I mean, there's still room to like explore more things, you know. So we'll see. I guess you'll pick the next book up and start it sooner. I don't know, but it was a contender on our
Next
read along list for next time. But yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes from there.
Yeah, me too. So overall, what do you rank this book?
On what kind of scale?
Five stars.
Out of what? Okay. I'm going to give it a solid 4.5.
Okay.
I think that, and like the only reason it's not a 5 is because it's not even like a story thing. It's just because first person isn't my preferred point POV. It still gets a 4.5. It's like it was a really good story. The subject matter was really good. There was enough it was an interesting hook and a premise of like a priest wrestling with kind of like a deconstruction and coming into her own belief, and the stuff with Ogam was all really compelling, and like the backstab and the double cross with him was really well done. Yeah, I really liked it a lot, and I liked the setting of it, like the kind of Viking meets Roman Empire type clash that was happening, which is kind of fitting. I mean, the Roman Empire ended up getting, in large part, diminished due to Germanic tribes that they tried to battle in the north and didn't go their way, and that's why they declined in large part. So, yeah, it was cool seeing that, and all of the like the divine battles we got to see of like these godlike figures facing each other was always really entertaining to read and is a spectacle.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How about you?
Well, I'm going to give it a 4.75. Yeah, no, I really liked it. The first person didn't bother me, even though it's not normally my preferred point of view to read either.
I feel like you've read more first person than me, though. You're probably a little more used to it.
Probably. But it's still not my preference. But yes, I have read more first person than you have probably. But I agree with everything you said. I think that I would have liked to have a better understanding of some of the world earlier on, because a lot of the world was not what Hessa thought it was, which I totally understand. But if we could have had a better understanding of where she started from earlier on, I think that would have helped. Maybe just for a little more grounding early on. But I don't know how that would have been done. So,
yeah.
But I did feel like in the beginning we were kind of like flailing, like, what's going on? How does this work? What's happening?
Yeah. And I would say it was still gripping, but it was a pretty like classic like plot devices in the beginning, with like the inciting incident being her town getting destroyed, and then what do we do? I think that, and we also had a lot of flashbacks in the beginning, and that kind of got abandoned later on. Which I think the flashbacks were in there to try to help ground Hessa as a character and help us see where she came from, but it could have maybe, I agree, maybe executed better. I don't know. It just felt, the flashbacks felt sometimes clunky, and I just kind of wanted to get back to real time. I was like, I feel like this could have been explained in a different way that wasn't a flashback, because I just want to go back to reading about what she's doing right now. Like, just tell me about where you came from in it. I don't know, but I also don't want just exposition dumps from the main character's head.
Yeah, I didn't mind the flashbacks, but but I know what you're saying. I actually really enjoyed the flashbacks. I almost wish that there would have been
or like more consistent,
or like for a long time I thought that Svala was going to be like a bad guy because she just vanished and we didn't know her at all, other than she had banished Hessa. And then we had a couple flashbacks where she seemed kind of shady. Like she was the for lack of a better word, the child catcher that came and collected the Engi children.
Yeah.
And then she like allowed a child to be possessed by Aang and die. Like those were that's what we knew of her. And then when she does show back up, she's not around very long before Ogam kills her. So, and we don't see her die. He shows up with her head.
Yeah.
So there's that. You had mentioned at one point that it felt like Omascat was the main character and we had gotten stuck with a side character for this story. And I still think that that's true, except that I think the main character is actually Estavius. Or Omascat and Estavius together should have been the main characters. And there are things that I wish I knew about their journey. Even though I loved learning Hessa's journey, I almost wish that this had been more of an epic fantasy because you get more POV characters that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Honestly, the book could have been longer.
It could have been.
And it could have been with multiple POV characters and more flashbacks so that we can actually... Because I think the issue that I have with the flashbacks is that they stopped doing them and then it just didn't feel consistent and it didn't feel like we were quite given enough. And it could have been... With what we were given, it maybe could have been done differently. Because we still never really got attached to Eater, her husband.
No.
We didn't really get too attached to her family. So she was like super concerned about her family. And I'm just like, I don't really know them. I don't really care as a reader that much about them. I mean, I care that you care, like just from an empathy standpoint. But like I personally have not gotten attached to them as characters.
Right.
And the same with Eater, which is why both of us were like on the hardcore Nissian ship.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, she's with Sixnet for a little bit when they're first captured and this baby. But then the only reason that we have a reason to be more concerned about this baby is that the random gods that she keeps encountering will say something about this baby. And she's like, what? And the reader's also very unclear on why that's such a thing, which that's fine.
Yeah.
But I wish we had more of a reason to be connected to Sixnet and to care more about her and her family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Than just basic human decency and empathy, like you said.
So I think that some of those things are reasons why it's not like full marks for me. But with all that being said, critique-wise, very nitpicky.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say.
What we did get was still like excellent, especially for a debut novel. Like that was her first published book.
Yeah.
Like, hats off to you, ma'am. Well done.
Yes.
Epic story, great premise, really interesting idea, and I look forward to maybe reading more.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So, should we announce what the next one's going to be?
We should. So, we are going back to the beginning, and we are going to revisit our good old boy Scott Lynch and read Red Seas Under Red Skies for our next read-along.
The second installment of The Gentleman Bastards.
Yes.
Yes.
So, be looking for that reading schedule. We'll post on our social medias for you to, pay attention to that. It won't start next week, but the following week. So, yeah.
Super pumped.
Yes, me too.
I'm ready to go back to that world. Go back to the characters.
I'll need to maybe go back and re-listen to our old episodes to refresh where we came from.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Love it. Very good. Well, I guess until next time, go buy that book.
Yes.
And happy reading.
And we'll talk at you next time.
Later.
Bye.